you're talking about mobilization. How does that look to you? Because it seems like no matter what happens as the end game here, they're continuing to build pipelines are all over the place.
We've got to fight these pipelines all across the United States, and we've seen that happen. You know, I should mention, right, we stopped fracking in the Delaware River Basin because people organized and people got involved. I don't mean me, I mean the movement. In the springtime, we stopped what was called the Constitution Pipeline. That was a 5-year battle. Pennsylvania said, roll out the red carpet, cut down all the trees, let's just let them go, right? But New York State was like, no. Now, we might have a similar situation here, right? Let's make sure, this is an oil and gas state, North Dakota. It is completely illegitimate in my view. It's causing human rights violations, and it's out of control. Iowa, Illinois, you guys got to stand up to this pipeline. We were just in Des Moines. We met with all these landowners who are against that pipeline fighters at the next state. So don't think Dakota Access Pipeline, you're going to bulldoze through here and then it's going to be an easy ride. That's not what's going to happen. We're going to fight you every single inch of the way. And that's what's happening all across America. The problem is the neoliberals and the Democrats have proposed a plan which would frack the entire United States, 2 million times over, literally. 300 new frack gas power plants is what they want to build. And every one of those power plants needs a pipeline. So that's hundreds of thousands of miles of pipelines. That's 2 million new fracking wells across the United States. And people across this nation, I just toured to 86 cities in the United States. Everybody's fighting a pipeline. Everybody's fighting a power plant. 42 of those power plants in Pennsylvania alone. So there's communities that are rising up, but we need to start to link these battles together. When you fight the Sable Trail pipeline in Florida, you're standing with Standing Rock. When you fight the Penn East pipeline in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, you're standing with Standing Rock. When you fight the Constitution or the Ned pipeline or the Millennium pipeline or the Algonquin pipeline, the offensively named Algonquin pipeline expansion, or the AIM pipeline or the Pilgrim pipeline. I mean, they come up with these crazy names for these pipelines, right? We beat the Constitution pipeline. It was a 5-year battle. We beat it because New York said no. And we did that because we mobilized. I believe that we are on the right side of history, and in the same way that we fought for, progressives, I should say, fought for civil rights, in the same way progressives fought for rights for women to vote, for child safety, labor laws, we're going to win this fight too. The big question is, are we going to win it in time? So we need to mobilize, we need to get out of your house. That's the rule of thumb. Leave your house. I know you're watching on video right now, but when you finish this video, share it and all that stuff, but make sure that's not the only thing you do. You get ready to mobilize. You go to DC, you go to your legislatures, you go to a local organizing meeting of 350.org or of any of the organizations that stand in solidarity here, or get your ass here. This would be the best thing for you to do, because we need people, masses of people out here to say this is enough, and we need those masses of people to continue to go into the streets, just as we saw, 400,000 people in New York City marched against climate change. We need to double and triple that for the next one.
Last question. I think not only Standing Rock, but a lot of the other stories I've seen this year, I think environmental racism is becoming more into the spotlight. A lot of people who are now awoken to Black Lives Matter, we focus so much, rightly so, on the shootings and the police brutality. But I was just in East Chicago, Indiana, where there was a quiet lead crisis that nobody covered, where they basically built a low-income black community on top of lead smeltering plants. And now that's a crisis. Flint, we know about. I'm getting messages every day now from other areas, I'm sure you are, where low-income black areas, Native American areas, they're basically fracking and building on top of where those who can't fight back. What are your thoughts on that, and what needs to be the response among progressives?
Well, first of all, in terms of climate change, climate change will harm the most vulnerable among us first. Climate change disproportionately affects communities of color and the third world. So climate change itself is racist. Climate change is patriarchal. Climate change is sexist, in the words of Anthony Rogers Wright. And I've been in places like, for example, in New Orleans, where a black community was built right on top of a Superfund site. And they all started to get cancer, and they're, what's going on? They do the research, they sue, but they didn't get enough money to move. So they just have enough money to pay for their cancer care. Environmental racism is a huge, huge issue. I think what you saw in the brutality over the last couple of days between the riot squads and the peaceful water protectors here, I think you see very clearly that oil and gas is racist. Oil and gas is brutal. Oil and gas creates instability. This has been the history and the legacy of oil and gas. Whether you were in Nigeria or you were in the Peruvian Amazon or in Ecuador, it was clear that it wasn't the white people on the line. That is very, very clear here. What's interesting about fracking right now is that fracking has gone into white communities, and fracking is going into suburban communities, and the oil and gas industry is, treating those communities just as they've treated, third world and communities of color for time immemorial. So there's actually a moment, I think, where white people have to wake up and go, whoa, this has been the case for these communities of color for centuries. We need to stand right alongside them, and we need to fight back. But without a doubt, we can't make any illusions about this. It has been communities of color that have borne the brunt of the toxicity and the violence of the fossil fuel industry. When you can't breathe, when you have a coal-fired power plant in your neighborhood, and the only reason why it's in your neighborhood is because you live in a black neighborhood, that air is attacking your lungs. The particulate matter, the mercury, the things that are going to create asthma in your lungs, that air is attacking you. That is a violent act on your community. When you go to Baldwin Hills in Los Angeles, a black neighborhood, when you live right next to that 1,000-acre oil field, and the only reason why it's there, the only reason why your community is there is because, oh, wow, what a coincidence. How did the black community end up in the oil field? See, this is happening all across America. Wilmington, for example, another community in Los Angeles, surrounded by oil refineries. New Orleans, of course, a horrible example. Places in the south side of Chicago. This has been going on for a very, very long time. And I know that the people here at Standing Rock very much want to point out that this isn't just them, that this is about all of us, and it's also very, very clear. These companies would prefer to push Native Americans around rather than put the pipeline in Bismarck, which is how it was originally supposed to be, where it was supposed to be. If that's not blatant racism and blatant classism, then I don't know what is. And that's why it's been so important for people like Jesse Jackson to come out here and make it clear. And I think that this should be an issue where we talk about civil rights. This is not just about the environment. This is not just about water. This is about our civil rights in America. This is a moment to take a stand. And Bill McKibben, I was on the phone with him the other day, and he said, he was talking to a large group of us, and he said, we all think that we would have been right there next to Martin Luther King on the bridge in Selma. We wouldn't have been on the side of the cops. We wouldn't have been bystanders. We would have been there. We would have been on the right side of history. Well, if you're silent on this, Hillary Clinton, if you're silent on this, Barack Obama, if you're silent on this, Loretta Lynch, if you're silent on this, most of the political leadership of the United States of America besides Bernie Sanders, well, you're not on that bridge. You are not on the right side. There's no middle ground here. You're either with these people who are standing up against climate change, with these people who are saying no to the Dakota Access Pipeline, with these people who are fighting for all of our water, or you're with the oil company. That's it. Silence means you're with the oil company, period. There is no two ways about this. So they have to come out and declare themselves, and they have to start to take action. It's inexcusable not to, on the grounds of climate and on the grounds of the environment, and yes, of course, on the grounds of civil rights.
There's nobody I'd rather be on a bridge in Standing Rock with than Josh Fox, champion of the earth, the progressive community, and rivaling even the most viral cat videos on Now This News. Check out his stuff this week for Now This News.